and welcome to Red Shirts Die First. This week, oh my god, yeah, Season 1, Episode 4, Code of Honor. Original air date October 12th, 1987, written by Catherine Powers and Michael Barron. Oh man, this was hard.
Yeah, this is going to be the long, slow death, I think.
Honestly, man, like I've been quite defensive of these early episodes, but I struggle when there's one.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a giveaway, but there's not really much defense in this episode.
Is there really anything to defend of this? I mean, Will Wheaton was quite defensive of this episode. Not defensive, but he said, like, in hindsight, it wasn't as racist as he remembered it being. But
yeah,
other people have begged to differ on the matter.
We shall find out.
Yeah, I guess we will find out. So the Memory Alpha, thank you. One-line synopsis for this episode. The mission of Mercy is jeopardized when a planetary ruler decides he wants an Enterprise officer as his wife. That's as good as it sounds.
It is. I think just the opening plot for this episode is so in and of itself really pretty boring, and then when you add like the rest of it together, we've just got probably the worst episode.
Easily the worst so far.
It's not saying much, is it?
No, we're only 3 episodes in, but
okay, we'll save our vitriol for the end.
Okay.
Should we do the recap then?
Yep. So the recap for this episode.
Do you want to do the honours, or should we just should we share the pain?
I guess we have to. Yeah, I think a pain shared is a pain halved in this instance.
It is. Yeah. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone other than yourself, Tom.
Yes. So after the Picard's announcement of a really awkward stardate, we find out that the Enterprise is on its way to Lygon 2, which is the source of a vaccine needed on the Federation planet Styrus 4.
Yeah, so both of these planets sound like they've just pulled the names out of their asses.
They really have.
Styrus 4. It's like Stylus 4.
So what is the name of this disease? Did you write this down?
There was another one of those pulled out of their asses names.
I believe it's like Ankyles fever.
Yeah, so initially they call it like a fever, and then I think later on they start calling it a plague.
Oh really? Well, it's evolved from a fever.
It morphs within the space for about 20 minutes.
It's gone from sniffles to full-blown death plague.
Yeah.
Shitting out your intestines and...
Oh, what a lovely thought for a Sunday evening.
Absolutely, shitting out your intestines.
It's the way to go.
Sunday evening, shit and giblets on Red Shirts Die First. So Picard must basically negotiate for this vaccine, and they welcome the Lygonians on to the Enterprise. They remark that they are closely humanoid, which gives us our first clue that they didn't want to spend a lot of money on this episode.
That's right.
Yeah, what do we have to say about this? I mean, we meet the Lygonian welcoming party.
Yeah, so they beam over, like, I guess, the bodyguards and the number 2, and then one of them rolls out the red mat, like the red carpet.
That's right.
And then Lutan himself, who's the head honcho of the Lygonians.
Yes.
Beams over.
He's straight. I can't remember exactly what it is off the bat, but we know that he is a pretty sexist guy. Is kind of intrigued at the fact that Lieutenant Yar is in a position of control or power as the head of security on the ship. Is it Hagan? Hagen?
Is that the number 2?
The number 2 is sent over to deliver a sample of the vaccine, which, Yar intervenes as the head of security, as there's procedures to these things. He tells her something along the lines of, "Get out of my way, woman," and she kicks his ass.
That's right,
which Lutan finds hilarious.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed this.
Yeah, I did too. Troy...
Yar is kind of badass, isn't she?
Oh, she is. She is a badass. Troy says that they should not apologise as it shows signs of weakness.
I wasn't sure if Troy actually kind of sensed this, or she'd just been reading up on them.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think she's just been buffing up on Google a little bit to try and make herself useful in some way.
Yeah. Maybe her yearly appraisal's coming up, and she wanted to get some brownie points in.
Yeah, that's it. Just like shit.
I need to say something useful.
Yeah.
They're on to me.
But Picard ends up asking them to join them for dinner. Lutan is most interested in Lieutenant Yar, and that's when we cue the opening credits.
So we end up in the briefing room on the Enterprise. Picard is doing a bit of a kind of ceremonial handover.
The ceremonial horse.
The ceremonial horse.
Please accept this ceremonial horse.
It's a tacky looking horse, isn't it?
It's a really tacky looking horse. It's the kind of thing you see on fucking bargain hunters or something.
It is. Yeah, it's a 20 quid special.
Yeah, not even 20 quid. Just like, oh, I'm really happy I made £8.50 today. I'm going to put it towards the bus ticket home, I suppose. Oh, yeah. What a depressing horse! But
it is. It is. It looks like it was painted by like a 4-year-old.
It says, did they remark on I've got a note here that just says similarity to past culture. This is a note that made me wince.
How do you mean? Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think Picard remarks on the Ligonians being reminiscent of a past culture that we greatly respect and admire. And it's like, nah, you're not going to save yourself with this.
It's a lot of kind of dick waving and, posturing and...
Oh, yeah.
Picard's trying to be sort of, I don't know, gracious or whatever, but...
There is a cute little moment with Data where he says something along the lines of, please accept this 14th century Ming Dynasty horse, and Data says, like, no, 13th century. So.
13th century. Yeah, get it right. Which is actually kind of funny, because Picard is, later on in his backstory... We're going to find out he's like a hotshot archaeologist.
Yeah.
And he was like the top archaeologist of his generation. And he didn't even know when the horse was made. So,
that's it. Sure hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Yeah, just retcon that in.
So it is the Ankyles fever vaccine that they are after, and Lutan remarks that he wants to visit the holodeck for some fun with Lieutenant Yar.
I could create 2, even 3, but really 1 is enough. As you fight with it, it learns, and before long, it knows exactly how to defeat you.
Even the extraordinary Lieutenant Yar.
It forces us to keep improving.
Your skill impresses me. I like
you. Yeah, and he insists on Lieutenant Yar. I think Riker volunteers initially. But Yar's, she's happy.
Yeah, she's happy to do so, and off they go. Does Riker not voice his concerns? He's kind of like onto the fact that Lutan is kind of into Lieutenant Yar a little bit here.
Yeah, he's, I think, Riker's obviously like I reckon he sees himself as like the alpha on board.
Oh.
And stuff like, they're like his women.
I guess so. Without that, but yeah, he was just white knighting, totally white knighting. But without that beard, he just hasn't got that kind of pulling power yet, man.
You're right.
But yeah, they end up down on the holodeck. Yar, Lutan, and his number 2. There's a line here where he says something like, "You create people without a soul" or something.
Yeah. See, again, this is a bit weird, because you see them using like the transporter technology, like they've got their own transporter tech.
Yes.
So the fact they can do that and yet they can't make holodecks.
Exactly, that's right.
It just seemed a bit weird. This was the first time we actually see the holodeck with like the grid.
Yes, that was cool. I did think that looked cool.
I mean, they don't really use it for like fighting simulations in the future, but this was pretty cool that you could go in, you go into the holodeck, have a fight with someone. I quite like this idea.
Yeah, this is one of the only things I remember where the holodeck is used as like a training ground within like the grid.
Yeah, that's
the grid
right.
setting. But Hagon doesn't believe that an image can do these kinds of things, so he steps in, gets his ass kicked again, and Lutan is rock hard at this point.
He's made his mind up, I think, at this point that he wants Yar. So what happens now? They end up back in the cargo bay, don't they?
They do.
And they're about to say goodbye to the Ligonian delegation, and right at the last minute, they kind of abduct Yar away with their transporter beam.
That's it. Just before they're about to peace out, he says, "Oh, I would just like to personally thank Lieutenant Yar," and then he grabs her, and then they kind of beam off, and it's like a big smell the fart moment again. But immediately the Enterprise is put on red alert, and they start firing warning shots above the planet.
They do. Now they're a bit inept, I reckon, at this point, because
Yeah.
I mean, what are they trying to do? They're like trying to contact the government, and they're waiting for ages, and they're firing these warning shots. Why don't they just beam her back? They've got the tech,
Yeah, I guess they can't lock onto her exact position to do so, or some such bullshit. I don't know, man. I'm really struggling at this point to defend this episode.
It is. I'm kind of nitpicking for the sake of it, because there's nothing else to do in this episode.
I know, we're like 5 minutes in.
Yeah, and it's death. It's just death, isn't it?
It is. But yeah, they start firing warning shots above the planet, and Captain Obvious calls it once again and remarks that Lutan maybe has a sexual attraction and curiosity with Lieutenant Yar.
Yeah, and she remarks that Lieutenant Yar is physically very attractive.
Yeah, just oh god.
Like, do we need to spell that out?
Yeah, well,
like,
obviously.
yeah.
There's a scene on the bridge where Data talks about the culture's respect for patience, and there's a lot of theys being thrown around, and it's just kind of uncomfortable to watch through, like, 2018 eyes. I don't know.
I mean, they're having to tell us like the details of this race because it's clearly not being shown like on screen, so they're kind of filling in the blanks. But
yeah,
it's pretty bad. So we do have a moment on the bridge, or in the captain's ready room, I should say. So Beverly Crusher comes up onto the bridge, and you see a sneaky little Wesley waiting in the turbo lift.
Oh, yeah, she goes in to see Picard to explain that the vaccine can't actually be replicated, and that they have to come up with the genuine article. And on her way out, that's when she kind of asks about Wesley, and just... God.
I did love Picard's reaction to this, because he kind of just like immediately hangs his head and is like, fine.
Yeah, I love how kind of like everyone else on the bridge is kind of the surrogate for the audience's reaction, where it's just like, what the fuck, are you serious? We're doing this, we're putting Wesley on the bridge.
Yeah, that's right. And this whole idea that they can't replicate the vaccine, bit tenuous.
I know, they're reaching, but it's just kind of what they need to establish the fact that they need to kind of do business with the Ligonians. I believe this is the moment where Data remarks what Lieutenant did was similar to what American Indians did, called a counting coup. It's an obscure language known as French.
It is. It isn't. I mean, Picard's French, isn't he? This is the whole point.
Picard's reaction is awesome.
Yeah. This is just filler, isn't it?
It basically is. Yeah. It's to basically explain that what Lutan did, at least in the eyes of their society, is kind of like an act of heroism, not an act of war. Again, it's all just to kind of push this agenda of we have to do business and we can't just start blasting and going in with guns blazing.
You actually understood what Data meant, because I didn't have a clue.
Oh, really?
I watched this twice. Yeah, I was like, what is he going on about?
I know that's what comes up. I'll try and cut the clip in here, but it ultimately it ends up with Picard having to politely ask for Yar's return, which he's not a big fan of.
See, I was more interested in Wesley getting the opportunity to come and sit down on the bridge, and and you have to wonder what is he wearing? It's like he's wearing a Clive jumper. Do you remember Clive jumpers?
I do remember the Clive jumper, yes.
He's kind of wearing a Clive jumper.
He is wearing a Clive jumper, and he goes and sits next to Geordi, is that right?
He does.
Ugh.
So usually Worf would be sat there, but Worf is very much absent in this episode.
Yeah, I noted that. I did note that Worf was not in this episode. But Ligonian custom requires Picard to attend the away... There is Lutan asked him to swing by for a dinner party, and Ligonian custom dictates that Picard has to lead the away party, much to Riker's dismay, and they have this cute little husband and wife thing where Riker says, if you die, I'll report you.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be cute, isn't it? But it's...
if you want to call it that.
I don't know. Is it supposed to be cute? I mean, those two have got a bit of a thing going on
already.
Yeah, it's a bromance, isn't it?
It is a bromance.
Yeah. So Riker does relent, and the captain gets to go down to the shindig. And what happens now? So we beam down onto the planet's surface, don't we?
Well, Yar is promised to be returned with dinner, and we go down to the planet and get to see
dinner plus Yar.
Dinner plus Yar. I don't really know what to say about the planet and the Ligonians and everything else. I mean, it's clearly just sort of African culture, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is very kind of stereotypical. Is it like sub-Saharan, maybe? I'm not too au fait with my African cultures, but it's very generic.
Yeah, I don't know the preferred nomenclature, so I'm just going to take a big step back from this.
Yeah, no, I certainly will as well, because we're two white guys and we don't know what we're talking about.
That's it, we are far too white to be talking about this, but all I've got here is a note that says, my God, the tapping.
The tapping, the sticks. Yeah. Do you know what? There's a bit of trivia with those sticks.
Oh, for real? Hit me.
I'll chuck it in. So this is spoiler alert. This is probably like the worst episode of Star Trek. Yeah.
Yep.
Now those sticks then appear in possibly the best episode of Star Trek, which is the season 6 Frame of Mind. So the same props get used again for that episode. There you go. That's my trivia. That's as exciting as it gets. Right there.
Color me blue.
Yeah, that's it. So that's a very tenuous link, isn't it? Between
it is, yeah. Getting back to the silly plot,
that may or may not make the cut.
That may or may not make the cut. A lot of this may or may not make the cut. This episode's going to be fucking 10 minutes at best. So, to get back to the silly plot, Lutan is in love with Yar, and Lutan's first, which is Yelena, is that her name?
Yes.
Challenges Yar for the right of supersedence.
Yeah, and there's another one of these smell the fart moments where no woman has done that in 200 years.
It is. It's going to be a big old fight to the death.
Your conduct in this matter has been beyond exemplary, Captain Picard. But now that the moment has come, I find that I cannot part with her.
You speak of a code of honor. But what you are saying now, according to our customs, is called an act of war.
This is not an act of war, but of love. I want Lieutenant Yard to become my first wife.
I challenge your right of supersedence.
No woman has challenged supersedence for over 200 years.
The right is mine and I will have it. Natasha Yar, I challenge you. A struggle to the death.
Picard refuses, and then we get the big line, no treaty, no... I'll cut it in.
No! The challenge is unequivocally refused.
Then you shall have no treaty, no vaccine, and no Lieutenant Yar!
It is. I made some notes in my show notes, just saying at this point the audience has died of boredom.
Yep.
Which I think was actually me dying of boredom.
Were you projecting?
I was. I was assuming that everyone else was dying of boredom at this point. Because I think now we're kind of in the episode. We're like 15, 16 minutes in.
It feels like an hour.
Yeah, the pacing is just glacial, isn't it?
Oh.
I mean, I was convinced, like the little clock on my wall, it was going to start ticking backwards.
Yeah, totally. There's a scene in Yar's quarters that she has down on the planet where Picard and Troy come along, and Troy basically tricks her into saying that she is a little bit thirsty for Lutan.
Yeah, that's right.
Only physically attracted, in the way that he kind of like complimented her and stuff like that.
No, I wasn't entirely sure why Troy needed to do this.
No,
because there wasn't really a payoff for knowing this stuff.
No, it was.
I reckon Troy was just being a bit pervy, you know.
I think she was being pervy and just trying to fuck with her a little bit.
Yeah.
Picard says how simple things would be without the Prime Directive, or is that Troy that says that?
No, you're right. It's Picard.
It is
and
Picard.
I think it's pretty sure this is the first time they mention Prime Directive.
Is this the first mention of the Prime Directive in an episode?
It's the prime name drop of the Prime Directive.
The prime name drop of the Prime Directive. We cut back to Crusher on the bridge. Where there's a report from Riker basically saying that, the fever which has evolved into a plague is now out of control. Deaths are estimated in the millions, and there is giblet shitting on Sunday.
So at this point it has become the giblet shitting plague, is it?
It has.
Good.
I like to think so.
Yeah, I'm glad we're clarifying
If you think about this, while everybody's dicking around and trying on outfits and prancing around with fluorescent lights, think of people shitting giblets.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so they just basically pull the finger out and get on with it, whatever it is they're trying to get on with.
They need to, and they do, as Yar says she does in fact want to fight, and Troy has to convince Picard to let Yar go kick some ass.
Yeah, and I think Troy agrees. So we do find out that with Lutan, he has like great importance in his tribe, but that the men don't actually own any wealth. So in this society, the women have all the wealth and the men have all the power.
Yeah, is this where Picard goes to meet with Lutan and his second, and they kind of have this horny boys conversation about needs and stuff like this?
Yeah, and we've got some casual sexism as well from Lutan.
Oh yeah, Picard's playing the casual sexism well. I'm sure he doesn't mean it deep down.
No, but I think Lutan says something like, "Women are highly pleasant things, but after all are unimportant."
Yeah, that's it. We find out that if not for their lands, Lutan is not particularly interested in them. Picard asks why a man of such importance and wealth would allow a woman he loves supposedly to fight to the death. And Hagen says too much and kind of steps in and says that he is important, but there isn't You know, there isn't a lot of money. The finger thing means the money.
It does. The taxes. It means the taxes.
The taxes. So
I think we've got the highlight of the episode coming up now, if we can call it that.
I think we do. I think we may do. Picard knows that Lutan is broke and starts to formulate a little plan.
He does. So we're back on board the Enterprise now, and Geordi is having a shave with his random blue shaver, and Data wanders in. Yeah.
This is the highlight of the episode.
It is. As inane as this scene actually is, I think, all things considered, this is the highlight. Yeah, go on, run with it.
A kiddly diddle?
Kiddly, including the kiddlies.
Including the kiddlies. Oh, that's the funniest part. Including the kiddlies.
So, Data's telling Geordi a joke, and Geordi's clearly been sitting through a lot of these jokes. I don't know, this was kind of cute, wasn't it? It did actually make me smile.
Yeah, it's kind of like the start of their relationship, sort of LaForge and Data, and it is kind of like a cool back and forth they have with each other.
Yeah.
It's actually funny. Brent Spine is great again. But yeah, mid kiddly diddly joke, Data and LaForge get called off to Ligon 2 to meet with Picard.
That's true. So Riker calls them back for away party duty. Kind of handy that they were in the same room together.
Yeah. Yeah, just kind of, yeah. But he asked them to research the weapons on the planet.
Yeah. Okay, they do find out that the weapons are poisoned, which is, I guess, kind of useful. But the rest of it, I mean, they're weapons. They're kind of swords and stuff. What more is there to know? Yeah,
exactly.
What deep research is Data going to be doing on these things? I'm just nitpicking again because, it's the only way I could stay sane watching this episode.
Well, I mean, is this not the scene where I was hoping... I'm just going through your notes. I just need to see if you wrote anything about this, because, yeah, you didn't write too much about this. I wanted to write more, but I really just didn't even know how to take it. I've just got a note that said Picard's racist entitled speech.
Yeah, Picard delivers a speech to Troy. I didn't write the speech down. We can cut it in if we want.
I'll cut it in here, but just the ender is like, something about I'm just ranting about what everybody already knows or something. It's like, this is...
And Troy's like, you're the captain. You're entitled to give a speech.
Yeah, the word entitled has a pretty different meaning in this day and age, especially when Picard's just going off on this huge white man's rant about savagery and how we've evolved from these times and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this episode really was, the white man come to, show the primitive black man how to do things, and
yeah, I think it's just I'm hitting the bailout button.
Yeah, I'm hitting it right after you.
Yep. The plan is that essentially, like, Riker says that Yar is to be beamed to safety during the fight should anything go wrong, and they're kind of trying to lock onto her location. Or the location of where she's going to be having this combat with Urena.
Yeah, that's right. So back on the bridge, they're really dicking around with their transporters. Like they're saying they're struggling to lock on to like the rest of the crew. I think the transporter. It's not the It's possibly it's the transporter chief. And like in later episodes, the transporters get a massive upgrade because
they must do, man, because
they're not this lame. Basically, if you've got a comm badge on, you're going to get transported out,
no matter where you are or what you're doing.
Yeah, even at like warp speed.
That's it. You hit that thing, you're getting the fuck out of Dodge, it doesn't matter what. But Yar goes to reason with her opponent, Urena, who's having absolutely none of it. She's convinced that Yar is attracted to Lutan. And Yar says, something about, on my world we wouldn't blah blah blah, and Urena cuts her off and says, you're on my world now, bitch!
Yeah.
Or something.
And we've got another big dramatic smell the fart moment.
Yeah. There's a scene, we cut back to Troy and Picard where he asks her for advice, and I've just got a note here that says Troy is fucking useless.
Yeah, she is, but I mean, you're not telling our audience anything they don't, they haven't already figured out.
Oh, that was just like the end of Picard's speech.
It was.
Man,
that was a bit low, wasn't it?
Picard...
Troy's really useful, that's,
Yeah, she is the most useful character on the show. Picard says something along the lines of, is there a way out of this? And Troy says, with the vaccine? Nope.
She's going to be proved wrong.
She is going to be proved wrong.
So Geordie and Data give their reports about the weapons. Geordie I've written here, usefully tells the captain that they are deadly. Well, okay, they're weapons. I mean, if they weren't deadly, they'd be kind of useless.
They wouldn't be weapons. They would just be things.
And Data says they are light for women to use. So we've got a bit of casual sexism there from Data.
Yeah, some more. I'm hitting the bailout joke.
And then Picard wants to know about the lengths of metal outside, and Data just, I don't know, I didn't really get this. He starts talking about these lengths of metal, like how they can be...
Yeah, they can be turned into poles that can
poles and rectangles, and...
This comes to nothing.
Yeah. I think in my notes I've actually written for this scene, fuck me, this episode is destroying my soul.
I've just seen it in bright capital purple letters.
Yeah, I was hitting the eject button at this point.
Yara is trying to convince everyone that she's fighting solely for the vaccine, but there is yet another kind of mention of her being physically attracted to Lutan, which I don't really know what this is trying to say. Am I just missing the point as a dude?
Well, kind of objectively, Lutan is kind of like a good-looking guy, isn't he? I mean, he's not like overweight. He's not. He looks like he's got...
He's prime cut Chuck, man, but I just don't really understand why we have to keep mentioning that Yara's attracted. I mean, yeah, it's like we got it the first time. I don't really know how this serves the plot in any way, because she doesn't go with him at the end.
No, I don't think it doesn't serve the plot at all, but then so much of this episode could be said to not serve the plot.
If there is a plot. We loosely use the word plot.
So they bring out a load of boxes, don't they, for Yara to choose her size.
That's it, and she ends up getting a spiked fist.
Yes, and Geordie tells Yar that the spikes are poisoned.
That's right. We see the light up jungle gym that they're going to be fighting on, which is basically just like a jungle gym with some fluorescent lights taped to it.
Yeah, so we are back on the Enterprise briefly. Riker is being really useful this episode. He's making more logs. So every time we cut back to the Enterprise, I think Riker's doing a supplementary log at this point.
Yeah.
It's just more kind of exposition for us to actually figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
But Wesley has found himself on the bridge, and Riker lets the little bastard back in.
He does. He does.
This is twice in one episode. And now Wesley is wearing completely, like, brown clothing.
I know this must be absolute torture for you, man.
Yeah, I reckon this is like his tree impression he's doing.
This tree impression.
I think he's even wearing brown socks. I'm fixated because there's I don't know why. It's almost like a car crash that you just can't look away from.
I think while everyone aboard the planet is getting ready to watch the fight, Data beams back to the ship and tells Riker and Crusher about Picard's plan, which we don't actually know what it is yet.
Yes, we find out Picard does actually have something up his sleeve. Oh, whatever that is.
Cue the fight.
Investment and instructions, sir.
Stay alive. We'll hope to do the rest.
Quotation marks.
Are we fighting now? That's right, yeah.
So Yar and Urena are fighting on this weird jungle gym with fluorescent lights taped to it with the spiked poison fist gauntlet.
It's almost like pole dancing, isn't it?
It is a little bit, yeah. It's really badly choreographed. Really badly shot, to be honest. I was kind of just rolling my eyes at most of this. The funny part when Urena's glove kind of gets stuck on one of the fluorescent lights and her glove just kind of flies off and hits a random and he dies.
Yeah. I mean, surely the randoms, like, they know these things are poisoned.
He just catches it like, what? Got it! It's not fucking baseball, dude!
Yeah. And then he dies in, like, record quick time, doesn't he?
He dies in seconds. Just to kind of let us know how quick the poison does act. But we're back to the fight, and Hagan is concerned for Urena when Lutan kind of gives him this look like, what?
Yeah, you got eyes for my woman?
Yeah, he's kind of onto him, but Yar does end up cutting Urena, and Urena goes down. Yar instantly leaps on top of her, and they magically lock onto their location and beam them back aboard the Enterprise.
Yeah, so luckily the transporter chief was doing his job, so no dicking around at this point.
There was no dicking around. Crusher isn't dicking around either. She administers the antidote to Urena.
Yep.
And we have a scene with Picard and Lutan where he's not particularly happy. Is it here where he's not particularly happy, or is it back on the ship?
Yeah, so Picard says, he kind of negotiates and says, well, look, she's died. this means we get the, Urina's died, this means we get the vaccine, and Lutan thinks Picard's tricked him, but kind of says, oh, okay, go on then.
That's right. He asks, well, if he, obviously Yar has won, so she'll become his first, and Picard says that he won't stop this from happening if she wants to claim it. Hagen remarks Lutan will still have all of Urina's lands and wealth. We find that he's super happy about this and doesn't really give a shit about us, so he's not the nicest dude. But he does give permission for the vaccine to be beamed aboard, so he does kind of keep his end of the bargain there.
That's right.
Everyone's beamed back onto the ship, including Lutan and Hagen, and they're all kind of sent to this lounge.
Yeah. And
this is where Lutan sees that Urina's alive and has been resuscitated. He's super pissed about it, but they have medical records to show that she did technically die, and with death comes this kind of immediate snap divorce clause, and she's free to hook up with whoever she wants to, and she hooks up with Hagen, as he was the only one who seemed really concerned for her during the entire fight, and Lutan is back to being broke as shit.
Yeah. And he gets to be the number 2.
He does.
So,
he does get to be the number 2.
So she's got her own little haram going on. Yeah.
I think this is where Hagen drops the line, you may excel in tech, but not in civilized behaviour. And it's like, bullshit. You're not saving this episode with this crap.
No, it's kind of, in that one statement, it just shows how lame this entire episode was.
Yeah, exactly. And just to stick another knife in Andy's fucking back, Wesley gets another nod on the bridge from Picard for doing such an excellent job. And he notes that he will be back, and it's like, yay, said nobody.
It's something for us all to look forward to.
Yeah, not really. But they're off to Styrus 4 to deliver the vaccine, and thank fuck that's over.
Yeah. So how many people do you think? How many people do you think have been killed from this plague thing?
Well, while they were busy dicking around, probably I'd like to estimate the death toll between sort of 6 to 7 million.
6 to 7 million. That's a lot of giblets.
That's a lot of shit giblets in the river. It would take decades to clean.
It will. Yeah. God damn, that was painful.
That was fucking painful. So yeah.
Well, go on then. I'll let you have the honours of the first.
Oh, is this where we rate it?
Yeah, go on. What did you think of this one, Tom?
Well, like I said, I've been quite defensive over these early episodes, but I'm going to give this one an E-.
E-.
It was fucking garbage. There was like 2 redeemable scenes, including the diddlies.
Which is funny because in other episodes that would be kind of the lame kind of data joke moment.
How fucking sad is that that's the one moment we cling to? Like, yes!
It is. Watching this through the first time a couple of nights ago, I was like, oh, we've got something to talk about.
Oh, look, a funny moment. We can make a joke.
Oh, dear God.
Jeez. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of kind things to say about this episode. It hasn't aged particularly well. I mean, even just the awkward race stuff aside, it's not well written. The pacing, like you say, is glacial. I nearly fell asleep watching this. I had to watch it in like 3 chunks and go and do other stuff to keep myself awake while taking notes for this thing. I only did a singular watch. You managed the full 2 watches, so you do get the Red Cross medal.
Thank you. Yeah, I did have to detox quite heavily afterwards, though. There's lots of long walks in the countryside and lots of kind of under the breath mutterings and
long walks in the countryside and longing looks over fences while leaning on them, just like maybe a shower or 6.
It was a lot of long hard runs after this one. just I couldn't get clean after it. I was scrubbing and
the dirt's not coming off.
I mean, in my kind of the way I'm thinking about this one, we're on a sliding scale from like A+ down to F-, and if this isn't F- territory, then I don't know what other episode could be.
Okay, so if I'm going E- and you're F-, where does that make us?
I mean, I genuinely don't remember any worse episodes than this.
I hope you're right. I genuinely hope you're right. I hope this was the bottom of the barrel, because this was just pure shit, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, even without the kind of tired, cliched sort of racism and sexism, even if it was just, all of that was taken out, the plot was just so boring.
It really was. It was directed by Russ Mabry, who passed away in 2012 at the tender young age of 86. But he was working in
Oh, wow.
television for a long time, and it was also co-directed by Les Landau, who still works in TV and has worked on The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise scripts.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, like I say, original air date for this, October 12th, 1987. I don't know if I said that or not, but that was Code of Honor.
It was.
Oh.
And we do have some reviews from some of the cast as well, because they were all over this. They
Oh, yeah.
loved it.
Please
You
hit
know.
me.
So Jonathan Frakes, he was a big fan of this episode. He referred to this episode as a racist piece of shit. So some pretty high praises there. Brent Spiner, he was similarly on board with it. You know, he loved it as well, and he said this was the worst episode we ever did. And we've got Michael Dorn, who wasn't even in this episode.
Yeah, noted absent.
I
Michael
reckon
Dorn.
he read the scripts beforehand and just refused point blank. But he said it was the worst episode of Star Trek ever filmed.
He's probably glad not to be a part of it, to be honest. This was a stain on that first season. And I think Will Wheaton says something along the lines of this would have been one of the episodes, or this was the reason the show would have been cancelled mid-season, were it not for just kind of like genuine love from the fans, and then reruns when it got put into syndication.
Yes, and I think, luckily, I don't think it gets worse from this point on. I think pretty much with the exception of Shades of Grey in Season 2, but that's, a clip show and that's a whole different thing. I think, apart from that, we are kind of at the bottom of the barrel right now.
Yeah.
So the only way is up.
The only way is up. I fucking hope so, man. But yeah.
It doesn't get worse. I'm convinced. I'm sure it doesn't get worse than this.
Yes, but between awkward racism, awkward sexism, terrible acting, and Data's awkward horse, that...
The awkward horse. Was that your second favourite scene in this one, Tom?
It may have been, but
You
that
said there were
was...
two. I'm just trying to get it clear in my mind. There were two favourite scenes because
there was awkward horse and a middle kiddly diddly.
Okay, good.
Those are the two best scenes in this episode by far.
What's our final rating on this?
Well, I went E-. Did you go F-? Where are we
F-.
going to meet on this one?
It's like an F, isn't it? F plus.
That's
F equals failure.
Yeah, let's say F. I don't want to put a plus on the end of anything to do with this
No,
episode.
because that's positive.
Yeah, that would be positive, and this was crap. If you like this episode, that's okay. We didn't.
Yeah. If you like this episode, God help you, but, more power to you.
More power to you. Right in with the redeeming qualities of Code of Honor, because I honestly couldn't find any.
No.
So, yeah, next week, what's coming up on Red Shirts Die First?
Next week, we have The Last Outpost,
Ooh.
which is, it's the first... Bit of a spoiler alert here, but I'm sure everyone knows all these already. But it's the first episode with the Ferengi.
Is this when they were still seen as a threat instead of the comedy relief that they kind of evolved into?
This was the one and only episode where they try to portray them as a threat. and it just falls flat on its face.
Well...
But it's we'll have a lot more to talk about, I'm sure.
It will be like Citizen Kane compared to this episode, no matter what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We wrapping it up?
We are wrapping up. So I've been Andy.
I've been Tom. This was Red Shirts Die First. That was Code of Honor. We'll see you next time.
Next time on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Captain, our power systems are failing.
A crippling force field sends the crew to a desolate planet where they encounter dangerous alien predators.
Kill them.
But a greater power threatens them both.
You are accused of deceit and treachery.
On the next exciting episode of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh my god. I can't even do this, man.